Hello, hello. Welcome to the 34th episode of BINJ Live. I'm your co-host, Jason Pramas of the Boston Institute for Nonprofit Journalism, BINJ. And let's see, I usually point, this way is my co-host.
Faraone, editorial director, and I will introduce our guest, Avanti Nambiar. How are you?
Hello, I'm well.
I'm really
Great.
excited to have you on. We got to hang out recently, and I got to say, one of my things, I know you're going back to school like a lot of our reporters, but, we need you to ultimately get in journalism because you're damn good, man. So we're going to show everybody just how good this week. But first, I just want to talk about just how good BINJ is, compared to, I was give myself a little soundbite here. No, so, we have been doing, and I don't always have to extol us in the context of how bad others are. But in this case, what the hell? So, we have really, my tagline for our Olympics, I keep doing it. World Cup coverage has been that we really started. And of course, we've been looking, but generally, we started when everybody else stopped. And I'm not saying there hasn't been some decent World Cup coverage of the costs, of some of the positives. There can be good coverage of rah stuff too, and certainly athlete interviews, and there's some interesting stuff. Maybe the first 500 stories about Scotland were interesting before it went overboard. But what I just saw a television news celebrating themselves for their coverage. Like sometimes we need, and their line was like, sometimes we need people from outside of Boston to show us how awesome our city is. And it really made me sick because anybody who's following,
they're not in our city, first of all.
BINJ has had a pretty good little streak in the past couple of days, the past week. I have been looking at contracts that, these World Cup contracts that apparently nobody gives a damn about. A lot of them are simple grant programs, state money going out to municipalities. And we talked about this last week because that's when the first piece came out. And the first piece that we ran, you can find it on binj.news, was about a lot of these grants and how they were supposed to be geographically diverse in the split. And of course, as usual, everything went to Boston, like 90% of $12 million. And then we did a follow-up, and props to Eamon, our intern, has been helping with that reporting. There will be more from him just with his byline only. In the meantime, I kind of took a little shot at the DPH because we found another contract where this contract.
That's the Department of Public Health, Chris.
Sorry, the Department of Public Health, and
there you go.
Wait until Avanti gets on. Avanti is the alphabet soup article of alphabet soup articles. I don't. There's a lot of letters, but in the meantime, so yeah, DPH. These were grants that they didn't even open the grant program until the World Cup was almost entirely over. On June 30th, there was only one game left. That's when they put this. That's when the deadline for these bids were open, were closed. And I got to say, I'll end it with this. Check out the story. Most importantly, the DPH, a scofflaw when it comes to responding to information requests, didn't even get back to us. And it's not just a BINJ thing. This is their treatment of media in general. We have actually, we wrote a whole story. John Gerhardson, who we had on to talk about it a couple months ago in January, right when the show was starting, we spoke about the DPH not getting back about things. So that's the big news story. But the story you're going to see at binj.news tomorrow, and I don't know if we even have a title yet, Avanti. We'll figure out a title. Maybe we'll open newsroom the hell out of it. But first, I just want to introduce you just as a reporter and just have you tell us about you're getting into reporting. And please don't forget, I want to also introduce Avanti as an awesome film writer. So for those out there, and I want to hear about that too, because this is, I think, we're even talking about potential grants to apply for to keep the tradition of film writing, writing about films in Greater Boston alive. Props to Jake Mulligan and all the Tom Meek, all the film writers in our orbit and who we know well and who write for some of the Cambridge outlets. But yeah, Avanti, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got it. We'll get to the missing children, the very serious topic, in a second. But just even how you found us, how you about your love of film and some of the writing that you've done.
The love of film?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just a nerd. I like to analyze movies.
Where do you fall down on the Odysseus debate? We could do that.
Oh, is
That would be
is
fun.
that? Yeah, let's get a little clip.
Oh,
out
it's
of
a
you.
scene, man. I'm waiting to see it because all my friends say it's great. But yeah,
I'm not involved in the debate because I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know.
it's been leaked. You
will
can
you
find
see
it on the Pirate Bay. So just saying.
Will you see it? The Pirate Michael Bay. Will you
Yeah.
see the movie?
I think I will. I will see the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
My confusion over this, though, guys, is that in a country as stupid as this, how is this the number one film? I think a lot of people just don't know it's based on a book.
Probably not. I mean, it's just apparently really good, despite what all the right wingers were going on about for the last 6 months.
Avanti, what have you liked? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll stop.
Well, I mean, no, you're the film guy. But Avanti, what have you liked recently? What are you going to see these days?
I saw it's been a good year for horror. I know the big ones that came out this year were Obsession and Backrooms, but I also like Hokum a fair bit.
Hokum?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
It's Adam Scott from Severance in Ireland. Yes.
Excellent,
Gotcha.
excellent.
That sounds cool.
The whole movie. Okay.
Anything else kicking around? You've covered some festivals. Anything else you're looking forward to? I know summer is a good time or a not so great time for I know you're probably not in the blockbusters.
I was going to say it's blockbuster season.
It's blockbuster season, but
so cold.
Any secret film things? Anything you're looking forward to, or are we kind of in a dead spell?
There were two coming to Coolidge Corner. Curious about. One was called "I Want Your Sex," which is I know it stars Olivia Wilde in it, and I really liked the movie she directed earlier, The Invite, that came out this year as well. That was solid. That wasn't the kind of movie I usually see, but it was good for what it was. I was engaged the whole time. But yeah, I had heard that I Want Your Sex is good. It's one of those like weird, quirky movies. And there was another one which was like, what is it? Like Camp Miasma or like Teenage Death at Camp Miasma. I don't remember the full title, but I'm sold. I'll go see it.
All right. So when you're not watching films, I mean, you came to us a couple of years ago. I mean, this is like, and I'm so glad, and you're really well versed in this stuff now. I'm still kind of catching up, obviously, but you do a great job. So just what was your first? I say missing children around the newsroom, around Binge. This is kind of like our shorthand for the project Avanti's been looking at. What do you call it? What is your? And also, what was your entry point? What was the first time you said? And then we'll focus here. But when we're this loose topic, missing children, what were your what got you interested in the first place?
Well, I was just going to school at Boston University, and I'd taken a data journalism class, and so we were just told to like pick a topic and find some database to, spin a story out of. So other people were doing stories on electricity rates or whatever. And so I decided I wanted to do missing children because I don't know, I just find absences interesting. Like, how do you produce a data-driven story on essentially something that doesn't exist or like an absence? So I thought that was an interesting challenge. But then what I found out was that it was much harder to find data than I had anticipated because Massachusetts is a little bit of an anomaly in that it doesn't have a public database for missing children. So if you went to California or any number of other states, you would find, you would be able to look up the identity of every missing child. You would be able to see the numbers of how many are missing, but Massachusetts, they just don't have it. So, initially it really looked as if there were no databases. And I was going to different places like the state police and CGIS and wherever and calling up the staff and being like, hey, do you have this data? And they would be like, no, it's that other guy that has it. And, like the bureaucratic kind of run around like the infinite ring. But eventually I looked in the state's laws and I figured out which place was meant to legally oversee a database. So I called them up and they were like, oh, have you checked the state police? And I was like, no, I know this place has it.
That's agent. Now, who is that? Who is that? That's supposed to be. I don't. And you do this so eloquently that. And now I'm kind of following along because I've been on this and editing the story. For those who are out there, yes, this is real. I mean, this is like, and I just want to slow it down a little bit because this is like, I think this is very great. Everything you're reporting here is like, what, mind-boggling, one after another. But when we're talking about missing children, I feel this is like the crux of like the past 10 years of politics, right? This everything from Pizzagate to the fake missing search for missing children, right?
Yeah.
Like all of the nonsense, the QAnon. And I don't expect you to address that. I'm wondering though, when you started even looking around, were you seeing nonsense or and also were you being treated? This is what I'm more interested in. When you started making these phone calls, were you being treated like some kind of conspiracy theorist by bureaucrats who really just don't want to admit that that they're not keeping track of anything here?
Actually, no, because at that stage, all I was asking for was data. Like it was like not even
Yeah,
developed
conspiracy
enough to
theorists
be a
don't want data.
conspiracy. It's like step number one. It's like just trying to even open the. It's like square one, and they would just simply say that they didn't have the information, which to a certain extent I would like maybe chalk up to intense like strategic bureaucratic incompetence in order to like avoid doing one's job. But to a certain degree, I do think it was genuine ignorance. I think like they did not know where this information would be stored, if anywhere. So when I wound up contacting CGIS, which does actually oversee the
And
information,
that stands
they
for what? What is that?
I believe it's Criminal Justice Information
CJ,
Services.
right.
So the staffer was like, no, that other guy might have it. And I was like, no, I read the law and it says that you guys have it. So they were like, okay, let me get back to you. And they put me on elevator music, like do 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 do. And then somebody shows up and they say that they're the legal services or the attorney or whatever for that department. And they said, I'm afraid we don't have that data. And I'm like, no, it says in this law, in this statute that you oversee this data. So they were like, okay, give me a minute. And it goes back to like, do, 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 do. And so finally they come back and they're like, oh, I learned something new today. Apparently we do oversee this data. And I thought that was kind of interesting that, I don't know, that another journalist other than a random student hadn't previously harangued the staff enough to like try to get the information.
Yeah, I
Or
mean, we say around here all the time. We said on the show. For me, it's the comparable one would be like state spending. Everyone always says follow the money. No one actually knows how contracts are made in the state. It's this very elaborate process.
Except
So,
you. Yep.
yeah, except me, right? I know that's the hipster end of that story. So for you, Avanti, what was I asked you how you got into this, and it was very, you're kind of just looking through data. It's actually kind of how we like to do things at Binge a lot, right? We work backwards. We're like looking at all these data sets, like okay, there's a little smoke there. Is there fire? What was the first? And I assume you just kind of told us, like, maybe not oh shit moment, but where you're realizing, like, again, you said earlier, in the absence, right, of data, like this is the missing children. Like, what were some of the things that kind of either made you say, okay, I have to move forward, or like, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, like, did some of this omission seem so glaring that you were like, maybe there's not a story here, or did you feel there was?
I really didn't know anything initially. For all I knew, there could have been like three missing children in all of the state and no story. But I'm kind of naturally cynically minded as a person, so not necessarily in the conspiratorial way, but in the sense of like, I think that the Harvey Weinstein stuff had already come out at that time. The Epstein stuff hadn't yet. And obviously there was the whole spotlight thing with the Catholic Church in Boston. So
Yeah.
there was like some precedent already to like notice when something's kind of suspicious. Like if there's really like an egregious lack of transparency in a certain arena, it automatically makes me a bit suspicious. So I was like, it would just be like due diligence to like follow up and see, is there something going on?
And I think that
Um,
it's interesting here because it's not like somebody's like hiding children in the basement of the state house, and of course that makes the story a little less attractive to a certain demographic, the conspiracy theorists we're talking about. For you, okay, so I don't want to hold this for too. Actually, I want to get to the legislation and what could be done about this. But first, it's interesting because in this first story that we're going to put out tomorrow, we don't start to get into the actual missing children. Like we're not. But do you have some numbers? Like when you is that kind of? I know that's coming, and I don't want to put you on the spot. Roughly speaking, do we like what are we talking? What kind of numbers are we talking about here?
I actually don't know. You put me on the spot.
No,
and
it's
I'm
okay.
not sure.
It's okay.
But
I know. Listen, I know that's the whole thing. Is if there was a database with a 1 through something, we'd have a number at the end of it. Okay.
like,
Well, the draft
number
said.
one,
Go
I
ahead.
can like look at public databases like NCMEC or NAMUS, which are like kind of national
Right.
databases, but only a small fraction of cases actually go to them. So that's not
Right.
really the full picture.
You said
I could
65
look,
Massachusetts cases were on the NAMUS database. Is that right?
yeah.
A
Right.
small
And
number, but then there were more like 1,400 in Mass State Police database or databases,
Yeah, we have.
something like that.
it's
It was
like
a
I
big
did request
discrepancy.
information from CGIS, but they haven't responded. They haven't given me the response to my FOIA request yet. But I did
Gotcha.
contact the DCF, and they gave me like higher numbers for the number of children that go missing from their care every year. But also the DCF has a tendency to like differentiate between absent versus missing. So for them, absent means we know where the kid isn't in our care, but we know where they are. And it's like, it's not clear what they mean that we know where they are. Are they on social media still? Are they like you've seen a social media post from them, so you assume that they're alive, they're homeless, but a social worker spoke to them like a month ago, so they're probably not missing. And it's like, if you were a parent of a child, this would not like pass
Fly.
muster for like you knowing where your child is. Especially considering that like the first, hours and days of a person actually going missing are a key period to
Yeah.
investigate and find them. So in my book, the missing versus absent differentiation is not that meaningful
Negative.
and seems to be sort of a way to just underreport the number of children who are actually going missing. But that's all alleged, and that's just my theory. That's not a factual
Wow. Yeah.
assertion.
Totally. I want to read a paragraph here from Avanti's draft, soon to be published article tomorrow morning. Currently, if members of the public go on the Mass State Police website seeking a statewide missing children's database, they get redirected to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, known as NAMUS, NAMUS for short. This is a national information clearinghouse and a resource center for missing and unidentified persons. While law enforcement's internal database tracks more than 1,200 active missing cases in Massachusetts, the public-facing NAMUS database lists as few as 65 total. The state effectively outsources its transparency to external databases, which it then fails to populate. First of all, repertorially, I just want to say that is such a beautiful paragraph, Monty. That is like that really that is a nut graph, as we say in the business. Really sums up a lot, and I think really speaks to what this article is about. It's like here's a state that, and I know this doesn't necessarily fall into the category of like liberal state. Everyone says it's a liberal state, but it does fall, and it's not because it's not a liberal. It's not a political issue. What it does fall, and as far as I'm concerned, is Massachusetts doesn't just, politicians, the neoliberals on Beacon Hill don't just pride themselves on their politics, but on their performance. And a lot of these kind of bureaucratic, not loopholes, but really blind spots and problems really get overlooked. Now, that's my segue to talking about how it's not like nobody knows about this. You were on Beacon Hill a couple weeks ago for, first of all, it's just so crazy that it has to even happen. It's called, I believe, Missing Persons Day. And if you just tell us about, and also preface this by saying Jason and I were on a call yesterday with some really cool documentarians who are trying to shine a light on exactly this, on critical bills that just die. And this is one, and I'll shut the hell up in a second. It just burns me. This is one where it's like, it's fucking missing children, and it's basic accountability. So tell us.
I
about
thought this stuff would all be taken care of until I read this draft today. I'm like,
this
because
stuff,
everyone's
this one
like,
is crazy. I'm really happy.
won't someone think about the children? Everyone's always joking. Well, apparently
everyone's
not.
so concerned about the children
I
until
was like,
it's time to
wow.
like put a list together. So Avanti, tell us about this bill and what were you doing on Beacon Hill, and with some pretty significant advocates whose names a lot of people have heard of. Some of them.
So, yeah.
What were you doing up there?
Yeah. I was up there listening to them talk about this new bill. Well, it's not a new bill. I lied. I don't know why I said that. It's an act relative to Massachusetts policy and procedure for missing and abducted children. And basically what it is very bare minimum investigative standards for missing children's cases. So things like training for the police, and for it, like a standardized intake form so that families can access emergency responses, and like very simple things. And by the way, it's like I think that Massachusetts, like Chris touched on, prides itself on being a progressive state, a green energy, good vibes type of state. I don't know, but we cannot pass this law, and it's like Kansas has passed mandatory basic standards, Arkansas and Oklahoma have passed like minimal standards. It's not just like a California that's passed these standards, and so. And the other aspect of it is it's not a new law. It's been reintroduced year after year after year to the point where the advocates and like the family members of survivors, like they've been trying to push this out since 2008, and it's so disheartening to them to see it continually passed over. And I don't remember the exact term for what the Massachusetts system has, but I think it's called a closed vote. I'm not entirely sure. But basically, you don't know what your senators or your representatives are really voting for. If a bill falls or dies,
I'll get thrown out. I've been thrown out of the gallery for taking a picture of the vote board. It's very rare that it's leaked. Sometimes lawmakers do, and it's at the center of our lack of transparency around here. It's one of those half transparent measures. They can't argue. You could be in there and see how they vote, but not much.
There's very little accountability from that, and so because of that, bills can keep on stalling. And so this was a bill where the advocates have been reintroducing it year after year. They kind of change the wording, they'll introduce it as a new bill, and it continuously stalls in the Ways and Means Committee.
It's very common, very, very common.
Yeah, implies that it's having trouble getting funding, but so it's kind of gotten to the point where in a couple more years, the advocates, a lot of them are retiring or moving out of the state or whatever, or like they might pass away eventually. So, so I find that kind of
no, that's tragic, and
dispiriting. Yes,
maybe ballot initiative number 10 could have been about something like this.
Why not?
But no, really, it is insane, and just for anybody who's wondering, like that there's something missing, like. Is there a conspiracy, or why wouldn't they do it? Listen, Beacon Hill works very simply. The order has to come on down from on top. And when something gets stuck in Ways and Means, I try not to really overthink it. If we have a tip, a lead says there's this other reason, but listen, money is money is money. And this is databases. This is law enforcement training. That is those are two of the most expensive, we're talking software, we're talking people power, anything law enforcement related. The joke, of course, is that when it's new weapons, when it's new fucking cars and cruisers and any of the toys, that's when they want to buy the drones, no problem. When we say, how about the transparency measures, how about the training for the drones, that costs money, we're told. So it's that much of a joke, and there's on that purchasing, on those contracts, those expenditures, there's just no checks and balances. I don't want to get too far off topic. What does it look like? Jason and I spoke about this the other day. We are now in July.
Yeah.
The session ends. Is it? I don't want to mess this up. Is it? Do you know, Jason, exactly when it ends?
Well, and the next one starts in January. Yeah.
Is it just that?
Oh, you mean you're talking about the economic the major bill debates and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true. There's the realistic window. Avanti, what are you hearing as far was there some hope? I mean, what the lawmakers who are the sponsors who you got to see, or anybody, is there like enthusiasm for this? I mean, it just sometimes things like this can maybe seem too obvious and get forgotten about.
Well, this is the only missing day, Children's Day I've been to, so I can't really compare. But it does seem, based off of me interviewing people, that they had more momentum, more traction in previous years. So I wouldn't personally be that optimistic. That's me. I think that, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again, and this has been
Sure.
repeating since about 2009. So I'm not personally confident, but you can one can dream.
But this bill is still in Ways and Means, right, Avanti?
To my understanding, yes.
Because I mean that
Don't
means
quote
it's
me on
dead.
that.
It's dead. I mean, and if it's not already part of one of the big economic bills, then it's dead, right? Now that doesn't mean that
be pushing a law enforcement package with appropriate pressures.
well, the session isn't actually over, right, until the end of the year. And apparently there've been some little changes that have been made to that kind of stuff, which I'm not aware of yet. I haven't read up on it yet. But basically, like, you will occasionally see House and Senate leadership like drive something through, like in the fall. Like, in theory, I believe they could pass something during this session that was filed in January of last year at any time during the 2-year session, but generally do not. Generally, virtually everything is passed now in July.
Just to confirm, there's a House version of the bill and a Senate version of the bill, and
Yeah.
each version has gotten into the Ways and Means committees for the House and Senate, respectively.
Cool.
Yeah, but it hasn't gone past that to third reading to conference committee. It's dead. It's not.
I mean, it's like we remain hopeful for the sake of the show and the children. And
sure, but it sounds like next session.
What did you learn? Because the bill is one big part of it, and I like to show that it's not like I think that's so important to the element of your story, because it's like, you're not just floating. You're not the only one who's ever noticed this stuff. There are all these holes in the system. At the same time, you are looking at something a little bigger. All of these different places where there are, where names do go. And the story's really interesting because people will see where things can fall through the cracks. What did you learn? Maybe not even intentionally, but just from listening to people at the State House, that might lead to, and you can tell us what some of your subsequent reporting is going to be about. We got a minute, but tell us about some of the people you spoke to, and more about what they said about that. Cause I know you were, probably telling them like, look, this is just a mess. And what is the general, what do people have to say? What did you learn to help your reporting over there?
To my recollection, some of what they talked about was, some of them were survivors going up to talk about their own personal experiences with loved ones going missing. So, for example, there's a journalist, Melanie McLaughlin, who has a podcast. I think it's called Open Investigation. Sorry, Melanie, if I got that wrong. But she has a podcast called Open Investigation, where she investigates the disappearance of her childhood friend back in the 70s, and basically what she finds is like a sex trafficking pedophile ring that existed in Massachusetts in the 1970s. And so that was her story, and there were others who had their own accounts of family members that went missing. And there was also Dr. Anne Marie Myers, who is a forensic anthropologist. So she worked for, I think, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Massachusetts for many, many years. She also worked at a university. She's recently retired. And she has like a lot of expertise onto the forensic side of things, which I'd like to eventually cover more in just how the state kind of underutilizes forensic experts and, doesn't store evidence properly and doesn't basically take all the measures that they could be taking to try to find people. And they also went over a slideshow of a bunch of people who are missing currently that they want to encourage people to keep an eye out for. Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. And I got to say, your story does have two people with the name Myers. spelled differently, I believe. That's always interesting. So you do, I know you do, and of course, this has been a work in progress for a long time. You do have some more. I know you just hinted you want to look at some forensics in the shorter term. I guess just people haven't read this piece yet. The ground that you cover, we look at the bill. We look at some other states, which you've mentioned briefly. Anything else you want to mention about other states? I always love it as a reporter when we can be like, look, Oklahoma does it better. No diss to Oklahoma. I got some friends out there. But what is some things if you were to have that conversation with a state legislator, what state do you tell them, hey, take a look at California, or what is it?
Yeah, I guess California. I think it's also been the case. I mean, in respect to like a public clearinghouse, I don't want to mess this up, but I believe that there's other states in New England that have a public clearinghouse already. I don't want to like list what they are in case I'm getting it wrong off the top of my head. But Massachusetts is kind of an anomaly in that they don't have one, and there were efforts to introduce one. I think dating back as far as like 2007 or 2008, and am I getting that wrong? It might have been 2015.
In your draft, it was 2017,
Right.
I think, but I could be wrong. I only read it once.
But they tried to introduce a bill, and at the time, the representatives were like, "Oh, we're really behind. All these other states have had it for like 8 years already," and that was like several years ago now. So that's another example of a bill just kind of like fizzling out, stalling. On the first surface, it has lots of momentum. It has bipartisan support. Who doesn't want to protect the children? And then it stalls, and then you never really hear from it again. So that's another area. My perception personally is that the Massachusetts system for monitoring the children and investigating them and everything is so kind of dilapidated at this point. It's like they have really outdated technology. They have like infrastructure that's kind of crumbling. They don't have enough oversight over the children. And they're sort of like so far behind that at this point, instead of like trying with urgency to secure more funding and fix the problem, it sort of seems like the system has gone in the direction of trying to be less transparent to make it less obvious how bad circumstances have become. That's my opinion.
That means that people are circling the wagons, within the bureaucracy. That's all, right?
I think I appreciate the way you put it, but this is how we say it as journalists, and your story shows that you've certainly done diligence and looked for a long time at this. And I got to say, like, I'm gonna come in with the tabloid bullshit. I'm gonna be the one, because you're too respectable to do it. I'm gonna come in and say, well, okay, well, that's great. And now we're spending like every AI contract the government,
I was just thinking about it,
get their hands on, and it is cheap. It is very Herald and tabloid as to always say, well, what about this? What about this? But we are talking about technology, and we see in this state, man, this is Massachusetts. There is always money flowing to some technology. Years ago, and many years ago, maybe a decade ago.
That's the main issue. We're one of the top, 4 or 5 tech states.
Right, and we're generating tech. We have all this in-house tech. This is the kind of thing also where, like, wouldn't it be great for, like, Massachusetts? Hey, don't just do this. Don't just make the clearinghouse. Give a $5 million contract to a Cambridge startup to do it, and figure this shit. Hey, use fucking AI for all I care. Just get it right. I think it is really goes to priorities, and it's one thing. It's not like this happened once. It's not like some little thing. What Avanti's showing here is really just for years and years. And
the interviews are pretty tragic, like
nobody
people
wants
read
to
it and get upset.
I remember Dr. Anne Marie Myers being like, 1 year they passed the online gaming bill. They got the funding to pass the bill on online gaming, and they couldn't pass the mandatory minimum missing children's investigations bill. I think that definitely the advocates feel that way as well. Like,
Avanti, we've played a role in passing the Massachusetts Journalism Commission law, even to the point of me drafting the final version of it. I mean, it passed. We actually got a law passed, which almost never happens. Then they never sat the commission, and now it's 5 years later. Yeah, it was a zero cost thing, and they never did it. And now they're supposed to be filing like a guilt bill because they didn't follow through. But it's not even like that. it's bad enough that most things never get passed that probably should. Then when things do get passed, or Chris could talk forever about ballot questions get passed, and they find every possible way to just ignore the will of the people. It's impressive. I will say.
I mean, everybody could talk about that. And I think actually, the audit, as annoying as it is, the fact that it's not happening has opened a lot of eyes. We've been covering transparency around here for a long time. And I hate to say it, but I do hope that your reporting here does reach some of that Karen Reed crowd, some of these newly interested curmudgeons, because
that can be handled, right, Chris?
What?
I mean, you go to Mike and some others, and they'll see it.
We'll do it. We'll seed it. But
get Avanti on, on the Young Jerks.
On the Young Jerks, yeah, we spoke about it, and I think it's kind of interesting. She's laughing because I told her it's like the Young, and I think it's because some of these people, a lot of them, they have the right thing. Why they just didn't know. They just didn't know. Now they're discovering. Hopefully, they apply it widely. But I think when we talk about missing children, I do think there's no problem with the reporting. The reporting solid. The problem, I think, with the potential reception is that, like, as soon as we're like, well, look, it's about databases, not people drinking the chromium. What is adrenochrome out of children's brains?
Oh yeah, they're breaking children open to drink their fluids.
This is they're not doing that. Newsroom.
Adrenochrome.
I'm just going on. Avanti, tell us, like, what do you think? I haven't asked. You seem awfully professional, even though we're the ones who are supposed to be the editors around here. But tell us, do you pay attention to any of the craziness, any conspiracy stuff, like, about that? Like, because certainly you're Googling. I know you're not just like Googling missing children, but does it come up? And I specifically, I have heard many real advocates talk about the damage that fake advocacy does for this. And I'm not trying to. If this doesn't apply, it does apply. But has any of this stuff come up with any of your sources, or just in your own observations and your research?
Actually, no. I don't think that in my personal research it's come up. I've heard Melanie McLaughlin talk about how she's been treated like a conspiracy theorist while chasing information down. But I think that at least amongst the people that I've spoken to, especially since a lot of them are advocates to begin with, I haven't really dealt with the conspiracy theorist angle much. And I don't think that the way that I am presenting or marketing things really, broadcast the sense of that I'm worried about people drinking adrenochrome. But, also, I guess I pay attention to stuff like that in as much as like any modern person who's on the internet probably absorbs a bit of it, but I don't know.
How about transparency in general, though, before we close up? How about because you're talking about some of these databases, and these are obviously sensitive issues in some degree. But tell me if I'm wrong. You are what is available. You have been able to access, right? Tell what is out there, and also tell us about what would you do of a day with subpoena power? Like if you had access to certain not just to see what even cops can see. Like how much are you able to see in this investigation versus how much are you reporting on what authorities can see?
Honestly, I can't see that much. I can see, like, for example, I can see the NCIC or FBI data for the entire country, but I can't find it specialized to Massachusetts. If I try to ask them for that specialized data, they tell me to go to CGIS. So I would have liked to see the data from CGIS. I made a request. They have not responded. They have not fulfilled it yet. I would have liked to compare the CGIS data to the FBI NCIC data to see if there was any kind of discrepancy. I would have liked to compare the data. There's like about 4 state agencies in Massachusetts that are legally mandated to report to CGIS if kids in their custody go missing. So I would have liked to compare the internal data of those places against the CGIS data. I did get some information from DCF. The other places either said they didn't have data or gave me like kind of confused responses. We don't
like the confused responses, but when they say they don't have it, we know what we need to know, right? I mean,
but also like the other problem is that there's like documented like discrepancies in, for example, the Boston Globe did coverage where they found that police reports that a group home made of runaways was the number of police reports of children reported missing from the group home was much, much larger than the number of children from that group home reported missing by DCF. And maybe that's to
Mm,
do with like their missing versus absent policy or something.
yeah.
But, for whatever reason you find these discrepancies, families say that the police don't always take the missing reports seriously. They think the kid just ran away for a bit. They don't really look for them. Maybe they search for
Uh,
3 days and then give up. Maybe they don't file an intake report at all. So, there's all kinds of ways where I question like how much crossover there is between databases. So yeah, I would have liked to see all of that stuff, but I can't really. So, I'm
Well, that
working
that
with
was
what I've
just
got.
that was as good an answer as it gets, and I think it also kind of leads us to a full circle moment, which is like sounds like a great solution to this would be a universal clearinghouse where like everything can be represented at least some point, and it's just absolutely mind boggling. And I'll
and
stop saying it because it
a
really is.
single a single intake form also, right? That's been a problem in Massachusetts that I think Avanti identified. It's not that easy to report something. People don't know where to go, right?
Mhm. It's not available in multiple languages. There's all
Right.
kinds
Right,
of,
right.
yeah.
That's a
Well,
big issue.
which all again points back to Massachusetts not kind of being the bureaucratic Disneyland, the progressive Disneyland that everybody thinks it is. Well, Avanti, I look forward to it. I'm gonna kind of go maybe grab a snack and put a bow on this thing, and maybe we could put it up and keep rocking and rolling. But I'm really glad that this is finally happening, and I'm looking forward to the response. I think it'll be a slow burner. I think we'll get a quick hit,
I
and
don't know,
then
maybe.
I think there'll be a little bit of a quick hit. But I also
No,
think
I
that
mean it
this
might jump. It might be a big
it'll
bump.
get a jump. But I also think this is the kind of piece where you're not going to be the only person who's like, wait a second, is there no place? And we're going to make
No,
sure that
it'll be getting hits in a year. I mean, obviously.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
binge lives forever. So we
Well, we'll
appreciate
try.
it. Yeah, we try. If somebody pays the server cost, right, which we can thankfully do
That's
right now.
important. We said
All
we
right,
could
so
find her.
let's
Oh, here we
maybe
go.
catch up tomorrow, and this is fantastic. Thanks for coming on.
Donate.
We're gonna donate at binge.news, and but Avanti, so Avanti can continue this work, and
Right.
let's and also look out for film writing. We really look forward to doing some more of that in the fall. But for now, we're gonna finally get this stuff out there. I'm really excited about it, and I think you sent some pictures over too, right, from the State House.
Yeah, they're my cell phone pictures. I don't know how flattering they are.
Cell
So
phones are
figure it
good.
out.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
Don't
look
worry.
for
we do.
It's fine.
royalty-free stock images.
We make miracles all
Perhaps.
the time. So thank you very much, and we'll talk
Thanks
to
a
you
lot,
soon.
Avanti. Yeah, we'll be back
Thank
next
you. Take
week.
care.
Next, probably Tuesday, 8 o'clock. And thanks a lot. Bye.